we have every year a display, and since this is the 25th anniversary of the Heritage Center, that's the theme of this display, starting with all this buckets and paint and scrub brushes, because the Heritage Center, the old town hall, was pretty much a mess, and it took a lot of time by the founders to get it ready. And then it talks about all the various activities that that the Heritage Center has done, previous topics for this chamber, and previous books that have been written, and oral history, and so on. There are several upcoming programs. July 20th and 21st, Passport to History. That's for area museums in the Lehigh Valley, and the hours will be 10 to 4. On Saturday, local historian Cheryl Stratton will demonstrate and instruct on the German art of Schermschittel. I probably mispronounced that. I'm sorry for that. I have no idea how you pronounce that. A Pennsylvania Dutch form of fancy paper cutting. Also, the Smoke and Pasty Company food truck will be selling contemporary versions of the traditional ethnic food treat, the Cornish pasty, and on Sunday, Karen Morris will be demonstrating and distributing cutout wooden Christmas ornaments. Thursday, August the 8th at 7 o'clock, scuba diving in the Delaware, I hope you're not doing that, and Lehigh Rivers with speaker Joe Fiorentino, if I'm mispronouncing that. Also, on Thursday, September 12th, Bell Tower Cultural Center. October 10th is the Holding On to Heritage program, which is a very popular program at the Heritage Center. All of these are free except for that one. Sunday, November 10th is a Veterans program with Terry Morris talking about Arlington Cemetery history. And then December 8th, Mark Loud does the Great Slatebelt Trivia Contest. And all programs are free. Something that's not free, but very good, is called Cooking Up Slater by Nancy Trey Rothman and Mark Loud. This is, there were 500 copies, there's probably only about 40 copies left. It's $25, and even though it says Growing Up Slater, people in Bangor were Slaters, and you can reminisce, or you can, what happened in Bangor, probably had a lot of similar experiences at Bangor. So Karen will have these for sale after the program if anyone's interested, or they are available at the Heritage Center. Things that are free, we have this little flyer on the Slatebelt Heritage Center. I'll have these up front, which you're welcome to take. And this was a project done by Mark Blau and his brothers David Blau, the heritage of our the Slatebelt. And you see the one side of it up there where they're listing all the historic sites in the Slatebelt. So you're welcome to take those also. We have this wonderful panels, two panels that were done on Gymnastics by Mary Louise Toth, and we're going to leave those at the center for a while. I didn't check with the powers that be, but maybe we can, in case you'd like to come back sometime, look at it. Also, this is a scrapbook on Kristen Maloney, which I think I'll leave at the center for a month or so. And basically talks about 98, 99, and 2000. Can you hear me in the back? Raise your hand if you can't hear me. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you can hear me?
Only when you're talking to the mic.
Good point. Okay. All right. Why are we having this program? Two main reasons. One is because it was the 50th anniversary of the Parkettes, and since Donna and Phil Strauss were from the Slatebelt, we thought it would be nice to recognize that milestone. And with the Olympics, we thought it would be nice to bring back the memories of Kristen Maloney. And we also decided to include two other aspects. So this is the order of the program. First of all, we're going to talk about Bangor Gymnastics, and Karen Brewer is going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about canorial gymnastics, and Tom Cook will talk about that. And then Don and Bill Strauss, Don is going to talk a little bit about the Parkettes. And when I talk about Kristen Maloney, she'll correct my mistakes, and we'll learn a little bit about Kristen and what a wonderful individual she was. This is going to be an informal program. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to make comments, like if you had any personal comment, a connection with, say, Kristen Maloney, or an interesting short story about, say, either Bangor or Gymnastics. That would be fine. Okay. I'd like to thank the Toth family, Tom Toth, for the video presentation. Terry Toth is also helping out, and Mary Louise Toth. Between these two panels and all the contacts she made, she put a tremendous amount of work on it. For publicity, I'd like to thank Karen Brewer and Jane Rosada for all the publicity on this program. And one final comment, which is very important: the restrooms are on, go out here, first one on the right. Turn right, and it's on the left there. Don't go in the slate rooms before the slate room. Okay, so let's get started. And the first thing we're going to talk about, which I didn't even know that existed, was Bangor Gymnastics. Karen? Oh yeah, we're moving right along here.
Okay, Bangor did not have a gymnastics program like Marshall did, but we were fortunate to have 3 girls that were in gymnastics and then went on to get scholarships at colleges. One is Krista Giannetti, and her mom will be talking to you about her. The other 2 were sisters, Holly and Hope DeBoer, and they graduated back in the early 80s. So their sister sent me this information. It's very small, I could not enlarge this, and bear with me. Yeah, okay, so the first one is Holly DeBoer Jones. She was a graduate of the class of 1980. Mrs. Jones participated in gymnastics and track and field while a student at Bangor High School. A standout athlete in gymnastics, she was a 3-time state qualifier, placing 10th in all-around competition in 1979. She was named Most Valuable Player 2 times, and she placed 2nd in all-around competition at the District 11 Championships in 1979, and 1st in all-around competition in 78 and 80. As a member of the Easton YMCA Club, Mrs. Jones competed in the Eastern Regional Class 1 competitions, earning 2nd place in all-around competition. Oh, I read that. See, it's very small. Of Eastern Regional Class all-around champion in 79 and 80. To her great credit, Mrs. Jones earned a scholarship at the University of Iowa, where she participated in gymnastics and earned a 1st place in floor exercise and all-around champion at the Iowa Invitational Meet in 1980-81, and champion in the uneven bars event in 81 and 82. Mrs. Jones was honored as the University of Iowa Poster Gymnast in 1983. Her sister Heidi DeBoer Hodge, a graduate of the class of 1979. Mrs. Hodge participated in gymnastics while a student at Bangor High School. A standout athlete, she was a state qualifier and was named Most Valuable Player in 1979. During the District 11 Championships in 1978, she was the champion in the uneven bars event and 2nd in all-around competition. And she was an uneven bars champion and 3rd in all-around competition in 1979. As a member of the Eastern YMCA Club team, Mrs. Hodge competed in the Eastern Regional Class 1 competitions, earning the distinction of Eastern Region 1 all-around champion. in 77 and 78, and placing second in all-around competition in 79. To her great credit, Mrs. Hodge earned a scholarship to the University of Iowa, where she participated in gymnastics and earned the most valuable player all-around team member for 79, 80, 81, 82. She was also the uneven bars champion at the Iowa Invitational Meet in 1980 and 81, and placed seventh at the Big Ten Championships in the uneven bars in 1979. And I know one of these sisters, and they did not tell me which one, is a coach today for gymnastics.
Joanne, would you like to make some comments? No? Yes. You'll make some comments. Okay. I know when I went to school, a long time ago, the school had gymnastics equipment, which I dreaded. And I assume that schools don't even have gymnastics equipment, but Bangor had you, did the girls ever practice at Bangor, or they just practiced at the East and Y? East and Y. Okay.
Just East and Y, but they only have it at Bangor, just like in the class.
For gym classes.
They only had it for different classes with the gymnastics. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Now we're going to turn it over to Penargil, and before we get into Penargil, are there any Penargil gymnasts here, and would you stand up? And I know some of you are here. I know you don't have a mic, and we won't ask you what years you were a gymnast or anything, but just turn around and loudly say your name, and then maybe your maiden name if you like, and your married name. Go ahead, Jim.
Jim Flight.
Okay.
I'm Diane Flight, married to Jim. I was a ninth grader when he was a senior on the gymnastics team. He had a nickname for me because I had skinny, skinny legs, but I won't even tell you more than that. And he was better known as Red. That was his nickname. And I can tell you that the last get-together of Penargil teachers, Dwayne and Mary Louise were there, and Dwayne still affectionately called him Red. So he had that nickname from ninth grade all the way through.
Up to 55.
And I graduated in 1975, and he was 72.
Okay.
Cheryl Williams Gatto, and I was on the gym team with Jen and Diane and Adrian, and I worked, did all around. I think I liked floor best and went to states for the beam, for the balance beam. Didn't win anything, fell off. At least once or twice, I don't remember. I just remember Mr. Toth telling me, he says, that's the fastest I ever seen you do your routine. You've never done your routine that fast. But anyway, so Mr. Toth asked me to join the team after I fell off the rings and dislocated my elbow in gymnastics club. We used to have clubs after school. And I don't know if he felt sorry for me or saw the great talent and decided, oh, I think they want her on the gymnastics team. But that's what I remember. Yeah, I did. He was getting ready to retire. He called me up and asked me if I would be interested in coaching. And I said, yeah, the job comes with it. Like a real job, a teaching job. And I got my teaching job and I put coached gymnastics, and I don't even remember, maybe you remember, if I coached the first, did I coach with him? The first year, was I his assistant? I'm gonna say it was probably 78.
We'll cover the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I don't remember, but anyway. Okay, so that's enough about me.
I was Adrian and I was the class of 81. I was definitely not as serious as all of them. My class was, there was 5 of us, and we all decided that we're not gonna do all around, we're gonna work out arms. So I did balance beam, somebody did bars, somebody did floor. Dwayne was a great coach and a great mentor, great person. And then poor Cheryl came in and took over our senior year, and we were so mean to you, I'm so sorry. You're like, well, Mr. Toad wouldn't make us do that. I'm not here anymore.
I don't remember you being mean, but I do remember you used to bring in, Garner, that was when your big outfit was
Oh, okay.
and you used to play it on, remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. And you used to play it, and all I wanted to do was dance. But anyway, yeah.
I'm Tammy Rusker-Sigley, and I'm class of 79, and we're celebrating our 45th class reunion this year, so we're all excited. But I actually really didn't even know what gymnastics was when I was in 6th grade, going up into 7th grade. Mr. Harner, our gym teacher, told Mr. Toth that, you know, I was coming up to the high school, and Mr. Toth allowed me to practice with the team and then be their manager. So that's how I kind of got into gymnastics. I wasn't all around, not by choice, but by Mr. Toth's choice. My specialty was actually vaulting, and I went to states twice.
Do you have any questions for them or anything? I was wondering, how did that work, having practice with there, you know, there was basketball, there was wrestling,
Morning practices.
morning practices.
Before school.
Morning practices, okay.
Yeah.
The boys always had a gym first.
Yeah.
That was before,
Full-time life.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, now we're gonna turn it over to Tom Coach, who's gonna give a presentation.
So, first, before we get into Penargil, I do want to talk about Krista, but before we even get into that, I just want to extend a huge congratulations to Bill and Donna Strauss for the 50th anniversary of the Parkettes. I mean, the amount of success that that program has had and the amount of kids that they've impacted, it's immeasurable. And so, yeah, congrats. So thank you everyone for coming out. It's great to see everybody. Some of you I haven't seen since I was 4 years old. You know, whenever I get the chance to talk about, you know, my dad and the impact that he's had on his student athletes, and I get pretty stoked about that. I know I'm speaking for my brother as well, and he'll maybe expand more upon that. But before we get into that, let's talk about Krista. Krista was a phenomenal athlete, and if we're talking about gymnastics in the Slatebelt, we would miss if we weren't talking about Krista. By the way, Joanne Louie, last chance. If you want to, okay. Sure.
Can you see Tom?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, this is better for the, yep.
Everybody.
Thank you. So Krista was born and raised in Bangor by her parents, Louis and Joanne Janetti. She graduated from Bangor High School in 1992, and she is a member of the Bangor Athletic Hall of Fame. I put in there a fun fact. I think this is kind of interesting that her sister Jamie, who was a classmate of mine, graduated in 1991, earned a Super Bowl ring in 2001 due to her work and time with the Baltimore Ravens. So I think that's pretty unique that you know, Louie and Joanne have not only a Division I athlete but also a Super Bowl ring earner in their household. It's awesome. Krista started her gymnastics career at the age of 5 at the Easton Y. She then moved her talents to the Stroudsburg YMCA at the age of 7. And I know we went through this, but Louis, Joanne, if I do mess something up, please come up here. Louis, like you did to me in 5th grade, just ping me in the back of the head, and we'll make the correction. The coaches at the Stroudsburg Y said that she needed more training than what they could offer. So she chose International, run by Bruno Klaus, located in Tannersville, PA, trained and competed year-round. While at International, she went on to compete in the District 11 competition representing Bangor High School, won a gold medal in the balance beam. Now, according to Chris's parents, that was not her event, but had a great meet at districts. She then competed at Club Nationals in Vegas her senior year of high school, and just another fact, not necessarily gymnastics related, but Chris also competed on the track and field team at Bangor, where she was a part of the 4x1 team that broke the school record in 1992. And Krista also held the 200-meter record for approximately 10 years. So again, a phenomenal athlete. A couple pictures of Krista at International, on the beam and on the bars. Not sure what this girl's doing here. Dublin. And then this was a blurb I took from my senior year yearbook. For 10 years, Krista has been participating in the sport of gymnastics. 3 hours every night, 4 hours every Saturday are dedicated to the sport. Krista has competed on the international gymnastics team for 5 years. Versatile as well as talented, this gymnast has competed on the uneven bars, the vault, the beam, and floor exercises, though she feels the vault and the bars are her best event. A state competitor, Krista will continue her competitive career at the university level. And she did. She went on to Western Michigan. After graduating from Bangor High School, Krista earned an athletic scholarship to compete at Western Michigan University, 4-year letter winner in gymnastics, and also a 2-year academic All-American. And some shots of her competing. This, correct me if I'm wrong, this is her last meet at Western Michigan. Again, got her on the bars. I'm assuming she landed that on the right. That's it. That's all we got. Any questions for Krista's parents, Louie and Joanne?
Slide right in.
Slide right in. Okay. All right. So again, was told, voluntold about 4 or 5 months ago that we're going to put this presentation together for my dad. And again, you know, whenever I get the opportunity to, you know, to talk about my dad and the impact that he made, it's very exciting. And of course, you know, wanted to do this and appreciate the opportunity. So just a little background about how gymnastics kind of came to Penarville. When my dad, so he, you know, many of you know, he born and raised in Penarville, went to Penarville High School. He graduated in 1959, and they offered football, they offered basketball, but they didn't offer track, they didn't offer gymnastics. And he dabbled in basketball a little bit. He played football, but they didn't offer track or gymnastics, so he ended up going to East Stroudsburg State College, where he found a love for both track and gymnastics. He was able to compete, and actually a plaque, that last bullet there, plaque still exists in the ESU trophy case that he and his 3 other 4x400 teammates earned at the 10 relays when they won the event. So in 1962, he competed at the 10 relays and he won. Ironically, 30 years later, I competed at the 10 relays in the same event, and I have no plaque in the ESU trophy. So that's a picture of him. He is third from the left. That's the 4x400, 4x440 relay team, not 400 meters, 440 yards. That's one of his gym teams. I'm not sure which year. I have the arrow there. I apologize. I know it's difficult to see, but that's him on the gym team. Another one, same thing, even smaller. Again, apologies, but that's him as well. The name is underlined there. I don't know if you can see that, but it's very tiny. One of his varsity letters, I wasn't going to put all of them in there, but I just thought it was appropriate. 1962-63 season gymnastics at East Stroudsburg State College. So he also at East Stroudsburg played a little bit of football. He was a little bit of a legacy that would be my Uncle Don, his brother, played football there, and he really had a great career. And the coach, I don't know his name, but insisted that my dad play. He said, you have to have some football in you. I coached your brother, and you need to play for me. If you're Donald Toast's brother, you need to play for me. And after a couple concussions, he said, this is not for me. When I say concussions, the way he explained it, he was knocked out, like more than once. So his football career was short-lived at East Stroudsburg, but he also competed and fell in love with gymnastics at East Stroudsburg State College. Cannot confirm or deny he is anyone in this picture, although that picture was in his things, clippings and newspaper clippings. So I figured I would throw that in there. It's 1964, as you can see. Again, not sure if he's in the air, not sure if he's the guy holding him. I'm not sure if he's either one. But let's just say that he is. So, okay, Bernardo High School gymnastics, the beginning. Not long after he was hired as a teacher at Bangor, he started a club team in 66 and 67, both for junior high and high school boys and girls. And by the way, if I am saying something that's out of school or I need to be corrected by those of you that may know better than I do, feel free to just step in and say, wait, Tommy, that's not correct. Hold on, I can clarify. But we did do our due diligence and the best we could to research this and get as many facts as we could to be accurate. In 1967-68, the school board approved gymnastics as a full-fledged varsity sport for the boys, and then the school board gave approval for both the boys and the girls the following year in 68-69. It reads in the yearbook that credit for the interest was given to Dwayne Toth, who spent countless hours holding before school practices and putting on demonstrations and exhibitions throughout the year. He would have the founders of the Parkettes, Bill and Donna Strauss, attend practices on Saturdays to help the girls and boys teams. Dwayne would also take the boys at East Stroudsburg State College to work out with the men's college gymnastics team there. My mom wanted me to make sure that this was included into this presentation. But the largest crowd ever to witness an event in the gym jammed in to see a doubleheader, a donkey basketball game in the gym meet with Southern Lehigh that same year, in 68 and 69. So it's in there. I got it. Dwayne was determined to find meets with teams regardless of where they were located. In 68-69, finding meets was tough. They entered meets with as many local schools as they could find, but also meets sponsored by the AAU and the YMCA. Girls went as far as Wilmington, Delaware to compete, and the boys as far as Reading, East Brunswick, New Jersey, Scranton, Hazleton. At Reading, the boys came home with 6 medals. Both girls and boys teams competed in Scranton as well, and at the Scranton Open meet, the 2 teams came home with 33 medals, which is impressive. Same year, both teams crushed Southern Lehigh in a dual meet. So again, there weren't too many local teams to compete against in those early years. In 69 and 70, their second year, they distinguished themselves as top-notch competitors. He's competed in 7 meets, won 5, still traveling to Reading, Scranton, and the AAU meets. In 70-71, their third year, the squad compiled a record of 9 wins and 4 losses. Dave Locke and Robert Happ were leading scorers for the boys, helping them to a 2-2 record. The girls finished second in the William Allen Invitational, and the boys posted a 7-2 record. Leading contributors to the girls were Roberta Ace, Cheryl Williams, Diane Groner, Paul Williams, and Celia Miller. One last one here, and then I have my brother come In 71-72, both boys and girls posted undefeated seasons. Cheryl Williams and Celia Miller qualified to compete in the state finals at Penn State University. Now, legend has it, Raymond, that, so, and apparently, so Raymond, I don't know if you want to tell this story or not, but.
No, once I get talking, it can take a while.
So Raymond, dating Cheryl at the time, was seen hitchhiking his way out to Penn State to see Cheryl compete at the meet. So he's traveling, I don't know how many 100 miles across the state, hitchhiking, thumbing his way, but you kind of popped the balloon and said you never made it.
No, I didn't.
You did make it.
I did make it there.
You did make it.
Absolutely.
Now, why didn't the bus just pick you up? That's
Actually, I started hitchhiking. I was at Bloomsburg at the time.
okay.
So I was already a third of the way there.
I got you.
And Mom just took me the rest of the way.
Makes sense. Raymond made it. That's awesome.
It's a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
And we're still together.
71-72 was the last year for the boys program due to lack of interest, so, and so few boys teams to compete with. And 72-73, there was no mention in the girls' record in the yearbook. And then 73-74, girls posted a 5-2 dual meet record now in the East Penn Girls Gymnastics League, just the East Penn Gymnastics League. Top performer was Celia Miller, came in third in the all-around District 11 meet, placed second on the beam. Underclassmen contributors this season were Sue Sullivan, Diane Field, Julie Fritchie, and Cindy Miller.
Good evening, everybody. You can hear me fine, right? Okay, just double check. In 74 and 75, Diane Teal placed second on the beam and sixth, I'm sorry. Yeah, Karen, can you turn on a little light over here, thanks. I am the older Toth brother, so give me anything. There we go, that's perfect. You still see it wrong? Okay, thanks. She placed sixth on the beam. And Cindy Miller placed third in the all-around category in the league meet. Cindy Miller also represented Penargil at the regional meet. In 75-76, the team posted an 8-3 record, and they beat an undefeated Stroudsburg team. Penargil was also well represented at the league meet as Cindy Miller, Janice Dietze, Nan Root, Julie Fritchie, and Tammy Buskirk all medaled. Nan Root qualified for districts and took a third in the vault, moving her to the regional competition. Now, this sort of popped in. This is a picture of Tommy on the left, and I am on the right. It was 1976 Christmas, and he wanted us to be seen in our Penargil gymnastics shirts. I have to tell you, as a kid of a coach, I was definitely well taken care of by the team. I know, Tammy, I spent an awful lot of time with you, Cindy, and Nan, and I really took in a lot of conversations. Now, I don't know if you'll remember this conversation, Tammy. Do you remember a competitor from East Stroudsburg High School? Meg. Let me see. Schreiber?
Yes.
Was that it? Okay. I teach in Stroudsburg, so I've walked by the hall numerous times. One day, it's not in my building, but one day at the high school, I walked by and I saw the name, and I know that name. And I remember a conversation that the three of you had that I was right behind, sitting there the whole time. Just wanted to remind you that I remember the conversation. There was quite a bit of competition going on because Penargil's athletes were amazing. Meg was pretty good too, but I'll tell you, she was not nearly as nice as the girls that took care of me at Marshall, I can tell you that. So there were some shenanigans going on there, but just as a kid, basically from up until the time I was about 8, I remember spending a lot of time with the team and really had a great time. It was a lot of fun. Okay, so in 76 and 77, the girls finished with 11 wins and 6 losses. Tammy Buskirk, Van Root, Cindy Ambrose all medaled with districts. Tammy and Nan advanced to the state meet at Shippensburg University. Tammy took 8th in the vault out of 36 vaulters. In 77 and 78, there were some top-notch individual performances. Cindy Ambrose placed 2nd on the beam at the league meet, which qualified her for states. Nan Rook finished 2nd in the league and 3rd at districts in the all-around. Tammy Buskirk set a school record with a score of 9.2 on a compulsory vault and finished 10th at states. So that's quite a bit of excitement at Penargil at that time for a very small school to be recognized so well at district and state level meets. Now, first of all, there's a lawsuit going on still between my mother and I that she actually made me wear these pants. And Tammy, that she's sound asleep on the bleachers. I don't know how this actually got in there, but Tommy said it was required. Karen, you can go ahead and kill the light there a second so they can. Oh, there we go. That should be good. This was. Oh yeah, I remember. I don't know if I win that lawsuit or not, but telling you that was not my choice. No, I lost my spot there. I had, as a kid who followed the gymnastics team, I definitely had some PTSD related situations. I'm going to call my mom and my father out on this. He will openly admit it was his fault, but when I was 4, it was in the winter of '74, there was a big meet down at Easton High School. And I will always remember that it's the Eastern Rovers, because at some point at the end of the meet, I, at 4 years old, on my own, was walking around the dog in the middle of the gymnasium. I was supposed to take the bus home with my father, and originally I was supposed to go home with my mother, and somewhere the lines of communication got crossed. Well, my father really took the brunt of that one, and it was his fault. At 4 years old, I didn't know my own phone number, so the coach that picked me up basically said, who are you and why are you here? I need my mom. So Cindy Young, who's actually Cindy Lobb now, married Dave, if you guys remember him from the gymnastics team, she was babysitting him at the time and took the phone call. So I really wish I could have been a fly on the wall to hear that conversation when my mom got to the front door. But yeah, so again, a lot of times and listen, again, it was my choice to go with the team on the bus. I wasn't even in kindergarten yet, but it was truly entertaining to be around the team at all times. So, a couple more quick stats here. In 78, 79, the team was young. They posted a 1-8 record that year. Tammy Buskirk, Charmaine Feeden, Linda Simokotsky, and Connie Bender were the greatest contributors for the season. This was my father's last season as head gymnastics coach. He had to give up coaching that particular year, and then Cheryl sort of goes into sort of the ending of his gymnastics coaching. He had a slipped disc. It was somewhere towards the end of the season, and he had difficulty walking. He couldn't. They put him in traction. His doctor was Dr. Lavecchio up at Pocono. He was out of school, I believe, for about a month and a half, lying in a bed, bored out of his mind, I'm sure. And it basically took a 6-inch scar and some pretty incredible surgery to be able to get him to walk. But he always had indicated to me that as much as he wanted to get back on the mat and be able to spot everybody, he was not physically capable of doing that, and it was always the safety of the kids first. And I know in reading and hearing some of the testimonials from his gymnasts, that was always my dad's big thing, was to make sure the kids were safe. And he just was not able to do it at that point. So that was really sort of the end. That was his last season. And like I said, luckily by springtime he was up and walking again, but he did spend quite a bit of time recovering from that. In the 79-80 season, it was coached by Debbie Tanzach and Cheryl Pagano. There were 17 members that qualified for districts. Seniors Connie Bender, Charmaine Feeden were the two main contributors for the Knights that particular year. The Green Knights posted a 2-6 record for the 80-81 season. Although Karen Trock, Kelly Carter, Adrienne Beneth, and Leanne Menudo all qualified for districts. So again, even though the team may not have scored well individually, they were still making big noise in the Lehigh Valley. In 81-82, we posted a team record of 0-8. Kelly Carter, Karen Trock, Yvette Timos were the three scorers who really helped the team that particular year. And this was the last season of gymnastics at Penargent.
Yeah, so I can still imagine my dad's face getting off the bus, not having my brother. It's off the bus. Bag, check. Clipboard, check. Terry, Mary Louise. Anyway, the program ended. Mostly due, and Cheryl, you could probably speak to this better than I can, obviously, like, I'm thinking budget cuts, right, and high cost of insurance, and things like that. So, so the program ended. But just a couple things, as my mom reached out to people and people got back to her, there were some really, great anecdotes and testimonials that just wanted to feel it'd be remiss if we didn't speak to. And Diane, maybe you want to talk about this. She had mentioned that in 1974 she was competing in the Junior Miss pageant, and she was also at the same time at a Parkettes camp, and she wanted to use for her floor routine as the creative and performing arts portion of the competition for the Junior Miss. And so the problem was that her floor routine was only 1 minute 15 seconds long, and for the Junior Miss competition, that portion needed to be over 2 minutes. Correct me if I'm wrong with any of this. So she had spoken to Bill Strauss, explained that she was a gymnast for my dad at Penargent, wanted to do a floor routine as a talent portion, but needed to add at least 1 minute to the routine. Bill had a Parkette staff member work with her. And she said she was one of the 100 students attending Parkette's camp that week, but she'll never forget Bill's generosity and his friendship with Dwayne and how that made such an impact. Diane won the creative and performing arts talent portion of the Junior Miss pageant in 1974. I thought this was great. I still kind of cracked up when I think about it. But in 9th grade, Diane Groner, when Diane was in 9th grade, Diane Groner was a senior, and she was very good on the uneven bars. And Diane was not competing on the bars at this time, but Diane thought that she would be a great all-around competitor. So when Diane was on the bars, she would cast out from the top bar, her feet would separate, which in gymnastics, whether you know it or not, it's a no-no. Keep your feet together. One of the few things I know, my limited knowledge about gymnastics. So Diane Groner's solution to this was to tape Diane's feet together. We're going to tape them together at the ankles, which was great, but once her feet were taped, she couldn't make it to the bars. So Diane would literally carry Diane Flake to the bars to allow them to practice and compete. So I don't think that's legal in meets, correct? Just wanted to know.
And I never did compete on boards. Even though Diane Garner tried her best.
There you go. Diane went on to say, Red and I will always be grateful to have had Dwayne as a coach. I think we're going to.
Yeah, okay. Sure, I mentioned earlier about the early morning practices, and my dad had also often commented on those. When I began teaching, sometimes things would happen very early in my school day, and I'd comment on it, and he said, hey, it was the same way with gymnastics back in the day. You do what you need to do for your kids, no matter what. You make the opportunities available. And he was a firm believer in that. And was very proud of the fact that he had that many kids showing up early before school to make things happen. Obviously, getting up early is never a fun thing. But I thought the second part of this was also an incredible statement. We competed against William Allen and Deereth, who were very, very good because they had tons of Parkettes on their team. We used to beat them at times, which really made the Penargil kids feel fantastic. It gave them an opportunity to compete against the best in the area. And my dad was also always a very firm believer. One of his coaching philosophies was, you don't go up against people that you can beat. You want to go up against the competition that's absolutely the best in the area because it makes everybody step up. And sure, I was really glad that you had mentioned that. You have anything else to? No? Okay.
I don't know how I got up there that early. I'm not an early riser
You
anymore.
probably slept in history class.
I think I did. I used to sleep in world cultures like that.
Now it's all coming out. Cindy Findon, her testimonial. I don't remember many details outside of practices. Mostly I remember what a great coach he was. His professionalism, his kindness, and he was patient, but he was also fair. He had a lot of responsibility on his hands, but it would never show the amount of pressure that he was under to make sure everything went perfectly. I know I dislocated my knee, and when I saw my kneecap sticking out on the left side of my leg, I was really scared. He was so calm and knew exactly what to do. I want to tell you something about my father. My father coached against me. I ran track for Bangor. My senior year, we're up at Penargil running on their track, and he's yelling for all his kids in the 2 mile. It's 8 times around, and I'm telling you right now, I cannot tell you how demoralizing it is to hear your father cheering for the team that you're competing against. But he'd go, come on, Terry, you can get it. Under his breath. But with everybody else, it was verbal. He cared about his athletes, and he really did care about Tommy and I too, even though we were oftentimes competing against his athletes at Penargil. It was always a fun time though, and he was really generous with everything coaching wise. He was very, very proud of that. Cindy also said regarding having to miss some practices due to teaching dance, he didn't make me feel bad, but I did. I felt a lot of guilt. That's why I bowed out and basically left the team. It was the hardest decision that I've ever had to make, and it hurt my heart because I loved it. Made me want to cry several times. Tammy. I remember the end of the season parties at the Toths always being a very good time. I remember those parties too. I was old enough to remember. Mr. Toth called me Ducky because he said I walked like a duck. He never got mad, he just said try it again if she had made a mistake in practice. I also remember that if you scored above a 9, that you receive a chicken platter, a chicken dinner platter certificate. I thought Mrs. Toth was always the one that had made the certificates. Dan, Cindy, and Tammy were always the ones that basically would keep track of who had the most certificates. So like I said, that sort of inter-squad competition was always a good thing. But my dad always did try to keep it fun, so everybody worked together. He was always big on teamwork. This is actually a picture at one of the parties in our basement. Clearly it was the 70s. I don't know if it was from the support or the, movable bar, but it was always a very good time. And what I really learned a lot about coaching and running activities at school was it's not a matter of just having your kids there, but also your parents and the families. And I remember meeting a lot of parents, siblings of the gymnasts at those parties. So it was always a great, safe time for everyone. Tammy was allowed to practice with the team. She had mentioned Mr. Harner before. Again, it's always great. My father was always big on being able to develop talent and how that talent could potentially be utilized. So I was really glad that you had mentioned this before. I know if he had a recommendation from John Harner, it was definitely taken to a high level of let's get that kid up here. So I was really glad to hear that before. Tom, do you want to finish things up?
Sorry, Walt, I know we're probably going over the 15 minutes allotted, but I have a couple more. Just a testimonial from Dave Lobb. 1972 boys team consisted of 3 seniors, Chip Williams, Jim, Red Flight, and myself. Jim, I read different things from different people, and they all mentioned your temper.
I was a rebel without a cause. Back in those days.
All right, well, I'm not messing with you. Chip Williams, Jim, Red Flight, and myself. I was close with Chip and Jim during our years on the team. I remember we each felt like Dwayne was our own personal coach. He always seemed to be right at our side when needed during every practice. He had 20 to 25 athletes at each practice, and we all felt he gave us his personal attention. How? It was a credit to his personality, his integrity, coaching style, and character. He instilled in us to work hard, help each other, lead by example, and be positive. While gymnastics can be an individual sport, he preached teamwork. That's just a picture of Dave that I found. That, I think, was from when my uncle ran the Boston Marathon. This is actually in Boston, probably back in late 70s, early 80s, whatever. And that's Cindy, who was babysitting me when Dad lost you. And lastly here, an anecdote from Nan Rook. Nan's not here, but I just thought this was really interesting, and those of you that have been at States, maybe you can speak to this, but actually I can only tell you that I went to regionals one year and then States my senior year. I went to States as an all-around, at first place in the vault, and second place as an all-around at States. I know I had to make a choice, and I know Dwayne would not make the choice for me. I remember looking at my mom and him for some guidance, and no one would lead me. They said it was my choice. They only allowed me to have one medal, and I picked the second place all around. I should have taken first place vault. I've kicked myself in the butt many times, but done with that now. Can anybody speak to the fact why the PIAA wouldn't award a medal, a gold medal and a silver medal for her winning that? That seems very hard for me to believe. Just curious. Okay. It seems money.
Well, maybe at that day it was even the thought that girls could only put forth so much energy or something. I don't know. Like you think of how girls used to have to play basketball at the end zones and the basketball.
Well, all I can say is thank God for Title IX.
Yeah.
So, Mom, I don't know if you want to speak to this or not, but the people, and forgive me if I forgot anybody or missed anybody, but those that contributed to this are obviously my mom, Tom and Nancy Chus. Side note that my mom and Nancy Chus were also judges, gymnastics judges. I'm sure there was no collusion between my mom and dad. Dave Lobb,
Jim and Diane Flight, Cheryl Pagano, Cindy Finn, Tammy Busker, Adrian Bender, Nan Rudd, Celia Miller. Thank you, everybody, for contributing to this. Mom, I don't know if you wanted to mention anything, say anything. Okay. All right, way over 15 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for all the time and effort. that you-
Comment? Can I just add a comment?
Sure.
I probably speak for a lot of gymnasts when I say, when we had morning practices before school, there's nothing like in the wintertime in a cold gym, doing a flip and landing and your head is kind of a little, it's like Pfizer, but we went right from practice into the locker room, get changed, get to homeroom. What about breakfast? Well, it was about third period, I think, I had a study hall. So I would eat crackers during my study hall. Well, Mr. Tiernan, Jim Tiernan, who was a wrestling coach for years, he heard me unraveling the cellophane paper one day. I won't tell you what my punishment was, but it was embarrassing. But I felt like saying, well, if you would practice the wrestling team before school, I wouldn't have to eat during study hall. But I didn't argue with that. But I think we all felt the same way. When you landed on that mat at 6 in the morning, your head kind of vibrated. And the mats were not like they are today. They were those hard, thick things that did not rebound. You just kind of,
Wrestling mats.
oh yeah.
Yeah, we just shared the wrestling mats.
Any other questions or comments? You did have some home gymnastics meets? Yeah. So how did that work out with the other teams? Did the other coaches sort of cooperate with scheduling and that, or it worked out okay? Now, the gymnastics season is when? Is that in the winter? That's in the winter. So in the fall, Wayne was coaching football many of those years, and in the spring he was also coaching track some of those years. So it was a year-round thing. And at that time, was there anything done in the summer or not really? Now, in the olden days, coaches only coached during the season, and now that's why a lot of coaches don't coach anymore. It's supposed to be year-round. Well, he had driver's ed. Which might have been more challenging than being a gymnastics coach.
Stories are better.
Okay, next, we're going to switch to the Parkettes. They've already been mentioned, 50 years. Bill and Don Strauss, would you like to come up and say a few words?
I would just like to say one thing to start this off tonight. I would like to talk about a person that was very religious, and he was a kind of a person that you want to be your father. He was just a wonderful person. That's who the team is named after. It's named after Don's principal. His name was Carl Parks, and he was just a wonderful guy.
I think we're very fortunate to live in the area that we live in, to have kids being worked to reach the national level in all different areas, all different trusts. At Australia, in our gym, we have banners of all the universities that our gymnasts have gone to. And that makes us more proud than anything else because their education is not forgotten. They did that as well as they did the gymnastics and college education, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sorry Kristen isn't here. I hope we can get a good update on what she's accomplished up to this point with working out 6 hours, 5 times a week, etc. Talking about running, and especially in the summer. And the grades were always up there. They have the strong will to be the best gymnast they can be, but they also win straight A's, most of them. So that was not neglected. A lot of times, in the beginning years, they didn't even care about education, they only cared about gymnastics. So, are there any questions?
How did you get involved in gymnastics? Where did you begin? How did you get involved in gymnastics?
Yeah, it's a
Right,
good,
right in the beginning.
yeah, right. It's a good question. I have a teaching position in the Allentown School District. And in the summer, I had gone to a couple of camps, one at Penn State, which was really good. And it's whet the appetite of, well, this is something I think we want to do. So we thought there weren't too many programs in our area at that time, so we started using Christ Lutheran Church, a day school, you name it, we used it, we had no place else. And then finally, simply we started working out on 6th Street in Allentown, which wasn't a real good area, because you had to be careful, make sure the girls got in and everything, but we wanted a pit so that they could do double backs. We were just starting to do double backs, double pulls, et cetera, So the 3rd floor of Symphony Hall, where we were, they had a wooden floor. So one evening late when no one was around, our gymnastic fathers came, cut a 6 by 10 area, lowered the wood floor, and made sure it wasn't going to go anyplace, etc. We had foam already cut up, balls, threw it into the pit, put a big, thick 8-inch landing mat there, and we had that for 6 months without anybody realizing that we had lowered the wood. But our fathers came back when we were done, because we were now going into a brand new gym. Took the floor, the wood, put it back, and they still haven't put it back. Does anyone have any questions?
I'd like to tell you that Donna really got her start. She got a start with a gentleman by the name of Dick Mulvihill, who was from Iowa. He was from Iowa, and we had the opportunity to go and spend a week with him from her school. And from meeting him for that week, she continues to come in and see us every couple of months. She would come in and spend some time with us and help us to grow and develop and build. And that was the one person that really helped her to develop to the point that she is today. And throughout the years, our team developed about 275 scholarships to all the top colleges and universities in the United States. There isn't one college or university that hasn't had at least one of our kids.
Any other questions? Well, I'm glad you have this, and we can continue to do it here. If anyone needs gymnastic equipment, just like on, I don't know where to take it out of there, but our gym's always welcome. Coach and just need someplace to go to work on stuff. We have pretty much, we have kids all over, so if you have 6 feet of foam and even more, it's good.
Yeah, we have one of the top facilities in the country. One of the top facilities in the country, and I just really feel that sometimes it's underused. It should be used more than it is. For anyone that wants to come and spend time there, is more than welcome to come and spend a lot of time. And as much time as they want to there, we really appreciate it.
What are the other programs that you have at your facility?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
What are the other programs that you have other than girls practicing gymnastics?
Oh, we have boys gymnastics and also most of the other sports in the area come into the gym. We've had ice skating, we've had all different kinds of sports come in and for individual training. And we get some of our staff to come out and help them train to try to make them better in their field, in their sport.
What age do they start at?
They start at age 1.5, what's called out of May. 1.5, and they go on up to adults. Sometimes we have adult classes that are.
When he says they start at 1.5, they come with their mother, it's mommy and me, and it's all fun activity, all different physical activity that a 1-year-old, 2-year-old can do. And it gives them the little motor skills, starts to develop more strength in their bodies and flexibility. And they learn to listen to what the instructor is telling them to do with their bodies. It's a good educational lead up also to it. We have 1, 2, 3-year-olds with mommy and me, and then 3 and up, it graduates to the top level. Any other question?
I know the two of you started out together. How many coaches do you have?
Right now, I think we have something like 15 or 16, but you have to understand that our gym is really large. So this is the 1 to 3-year-old area. This is the 4 to 5-year-old. This is the big area for all of the teams, etc. It's all spread out and low ratio approach to the gymnast.
How many students do you have roughly now?
We usually run around 900 to 1,100 kids a week in the program. And they just keep coming, year after year after year. We really appreciate that.
Another area, if you're going to start adding hours, it's going to make it more difficult for the homework to get done, etc. You have to really make sure that the schedules are done so that doesn't take a back seat. That you want to spend as much time on the homework as what you're doing with the physical activity. And those two areas together produce a really strong individual. If you ever come into the Parkette gym, and you're all welcome, we have banners for every college that our gymnasts got a full scholarship. It's pretty impressive. They're hanging, you can see that all these universities have taken their all good ones and doing pretty well. I wish that Kristen was here so she could go through exactly what her education went. Any other questions?
As you can tell, we're getting old. The time is starting to run out on us, and we've been in it for a long time. It's going to be almost 60 years that we've been involved in. We've been to almost every Olympics since 1972. 1972 was the first Olympics that we were at, and we had a great experience, but we had a terrifying experience with our flights to the Olympics. And we felt that we would never go to another Olympic Games, but that inspired us. And we moved on, and we kept moving and moving, and we've been to every Olympics in one way or another since not even 1968.
Are you headed to Paris? Are you headed to Paris?
No.
Can I say something? Hello? My daughter is going to Paris Olympics.
I'll be volunteering.
She's volunteering there for 2 weeks.
Beach volleyball, look out.
Well, I just wanted to tell you, our next guy here is gonna talk about somebody else we don't know an awful lot about. We're talking about Kristen Maloney. Kristen Maloney was one of our, just wanted to say, was one of our favorite athletes. She started out as a youngster, and she grew and grew and grew until she became an Olympian. And I can remember one time not too long ago, well, it was pretty long ago, at that time. Anyhow, we, what the heck did I want to say now? I can't remember. That's what I mean, we're getting kind of old there. She was like a junior elite, and she was trying out for junior elite, and she came in and she had a fever of 102, 103 degrees, and we didn't want her to compete, and she started pitch a tantrum, and finally we let her compete, and she won the meet, so we were really proud of her. Now I'm going to turn this over to the other guy.
That leads us right into Kristen Maloney, and I'm having them stay up here to correct me, and so I can ask them some questions. Yes?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but thank you so much for the impact that you've had locally, in the whole Lehigh Valley, in the state of Pennsylvania, in the country, and in truth, the whole world. Thank you.
And it's really neat how you said it's not just the gymnastics that's making the young people well-rounded, their education is important, and you're proud of the educational achievements as well as the gymnastics achievements. Okay, so Kristen Maloney. Several years ago, I was in a meeting with many other coaches and former coaches, and I thought I'd just ask this question just to get the pot stirring. I said, who do you think was the greatest athlete in Bangor history? Well, they listed your rules. And I said, no, I said, who was the most disciplined, the most dedicated, the most successful athlete in Bangor history? So what about Kristen Maloney? Not one agree with me. Not one agree with me. Okay. When she was a young girl, she was just obsessed with Nadia Comaneci. And she watched a movie about her time, to the point that she memorized the dialogue of the movie. She started when she was 6 years old. Now, did she go like twice a week when she was 6, do you think? Okay. Earlier than 6? Okay. And when they start, do they go like normally twice a week or? Once a week. Okay. All right. Her mother Linda would drive her down, and since it was a long trip, she would stay down there, and there was only so much she could do. And as she got better, then the parents were expected to volunteer for different activities. And it did help her that later on she could also carpool it, so she wasn't going down. Now, they also had 2 other children. And then for 2 years, they had a Kendall Beck, who was a gymnast from Texas, who came up to study with the Parkettes. So here the family has their 3 children, and Kendall living there also. So eventually, as she's getting better, I wonder how old she was when she realized she was special, that she was going to be a special athlete. Or when did you realize that she was going to be a special athlete? Was there an age period or?
Yeah, the first Olympic trial, she could get wins. That's what she knew she had. The spirit in her. That's why she stuck it out.
In the 1996 Olympic trials, she went up to the trials as a 15-year-old, knowing she had no chance, but the experience and the atmosphere and everything else, yeah, that made me really even lit the fire. So as she gets better, she's probably going 6 days a week, 6 days a week, and she's practicing 4 hours a day, maybe. As a teacher, I think she left school around 12, and then she would go down to the Parkettes, and then she'd come back home. Of course, she'd have to do her schoolwork, and she was a very good student. She was an A student. 1998 and 1999 was when she really became famous. She was a two-time national champ in 1998 and 9. And this scrapbook, which I'll leave here, talks about those years, 1998 and 1999. Now, in 1999, she got a stress fracture. Now, when she had that stress fracture, that must have really hurt while she was practicing and competing. But she just endured the Can you hear her in the back? You can? No. Just repeat what you just said.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, with the stress fracture in the tibia, we limited tumbling and vaulting because we knew it wasn't going to get better. We kept pounding it, etc. And she did all her conditioning. She did extra bars, not anything that bothered her would make the injury worse. And she was so dedicated that she came out of it almost much better than what she was before we stopped working out, etc. Because she did all the flexibility, held handstands, pirouetted and handed, and she came out better than what she was. And this wasn't because her coaches were telling her you have to do this, this, and this. This is what about Kristen. She knew where she wanted to go, and she knew how hard she had to work, and it was all sensible, planned out well, a lot on her part, and she was a role model for the other girls in the gym.
So, two-time national champ, she's gearing up for the 2000 Olympics, but the stress factor is so bad that in November of '99, she had a titanium rod put in her tibia, and in December of 1999, she had looseness in her shoulder, so they had to tighten up her shoulder. So she had these surgeries in 1999, in November and December, and this must have been the lowest point of her career because she probably didn't know, is she going to recover in time for the Olympic trials in August after having this surgery? And what that rehab must have been like, and therapy must have been like, and her mental state and everything else, it must have been really, really tough work.
Kristen was very gifted physically, but mentally she was extremely strong. So she kept herself calm. She didn't get hysterical. Of course, there were moments, times, frustrated because I want to be here, how am I going to get there, because I can't do it, etc. And she didn't know what the ending would be. But she stayed calm. She believed in that what she was doing with all of the exercises, etc., were going to get her through this. And she was always positive. She'd get upset, think it through, and she was right back on it. And she was like I said, the kids around her, she was their role model.
So there was a quote somewhere that her sheer punishment she would inflict on her body, the sheer punishment she would inflict on her body. Now, she's going to be a senior in high school while she's going through all this recovery. So, would she make the Olympic team? Well, she was the best in 98 and 99, but what about 2000? So she did make the Olympic team. She had the third best scores, but she made it. So they came back to Penardville. There was a parade that assembled in Indiana Park. Some of the people might have been at that parade. Fire truck afloat. And she is such a modest girl and a humble girl. That might have been the toughest thing she's ever had to go through, that parade. Fire truck went through Bangor and back to Indiana Park where they had a ceremony. So they go to Sydney. Now, at that time, the one in charge of the Olympic program was Karoli, the Romanian coach of Nadia Comaneci, who wanted to run the American camp like the Romanian camps. And that wasn't a good experience, was it? I think you told me on the phone that when you were down in Texas, you would try to get the girls to some pizza and stuff, so they could have something to eat rather than whatever they were trying to train them with. But it wasn't a happy experience for the girls under Karoli. So they go to Sydney. Now on Sunday, they had a disastrous poor performance. The paper said that the team was flat, the team had no energy. Kristen on her first vault had a poor landing and really hurt her leg. And she had to recompose herself, and she went back and she had a very good, excellent second vault to come after that injury with so little time to refocus. So then one of the coaches had a team meeting after the disastrous Sunday event, and this coach talked about the basics. You know, this is your moment. Don't worry about what happened Sunday. You can do it. Stay positive. And something I think a lot of coaches have said through the years: just go out and have fun and enjoy the moment. And that Tuesday, the gymnastics team had a great event. Something that could have demoralized some athletes. As she was entering the gymnasium, she was told, or right before she entered, she was told, "Oh, you're not going to do the uneven bars." And you know, that could have frustrated her. And but she said, because she always thought about the team first. She was really more team than individual. And she said that was okay. That was the best thing for the team, to not having to compete. So what happened Tuesday? Well, they moved up from 6th to 4th. They had a lot higher score. And in the 3 events she did compete in, she had the highest score of the American team in the 3 events. So they finished 4th. Romania, Russia, China, and they were 4th. And they were very pleased with the 4th because of how they had improved and performed. Now, several months later, the Chinese squad was disqualified for having, I think it was because underage gymnasts is what?
Underage coaches. The judges were underage. They were the judges were, the little thing was a year younger than she should have been. So she should have been older.
Right.
She was disqualified because she was there.
Okay, so for whatever reason, and you don't want to, there's issues with the Chinese today with Paris, but okay. All right, so anyway, they ended up finishing 3rd. She was in the all-around. She didn't do that well. Her end of her gymnastics, she ended up finishing, I think, 20th in the all-around competition. I have a couple articles here. I'm just going to briefly This was a title, Paul Reinhardt had a lot of articles about the gymnastics team. The title was Maloney Bounces Back, Calls Teams Forth Awesome. He had another article there where he dripped Caroli for his techniques. Now this is what Paul Reinhardt said. The real Krista Maloney returned for an encore Tuesday night. Gone was the gymnast who was sidetracked by injuries. This was the Krista Maloney who led the United States to the international team and Pacific Alliance Team Championships in 1998. The one who cares deeply about everyone. She smiled, she applauded, she exhorted, she hugged. She did not wear a C on her leotard, but clearly she was she was the captain again. Another article says, title says, team finishes fourth, finishes with honor. Kristen said that the fourth place finish was awesome. Both the performance of the U.S. team as a whole and Miss Maloney in particular were exciting and dramatic improvements from the competition on Sunday when they struggled to reach the finals. Her focus truly was on the team, so much so that she not only kept her cool when she was pulled out of the rotation for the uneven bars, she also increased the intensity of her cheerleading for team members. And again, she had just graduated from school, from Bangor. One of the Parkettes said she's a real class act and equally important role model for other young Olympic hopefuls. This one coach said that, reporter said that at the Parkettes, she's known for her composure, perseverance, and grace under pressure. She's influenced the attitudes of other young gymnasts, and so many of them say they want to be like Kristen Maloney. She was a shy girl. In fact, one quote in the paper said, shyness was legendary for Kristen. She had postponed college. She went to UCLA. She was an NCAA champ. She ended up being a coach at Iowa in the gymnastics program. She's living in Maryland now, and I don't know exactly what she, I'm sure she's involved in the gymnastics camp or program down there. If you're interested, you can look up YouTube and find some of the performances. I'm going to leave this scrapbook here. The panels are over there at Bangor High School. Again, thanks for all the people. Mary Louise, would you like to say a few words? Okay. They said it all. Well, they certainly did, and what a great tribute to Dwayne. What a great tribute to Dwayne. He was a wonderful guy. Are there any other final comments or questions? Yes.
I think with Kristen too, you wonder what do these gymnasts do after college and so forth, other than coaching, but she joined one of the Cirque du Soleil programs, and I think she was in Europe touring with the Cirque du Soleil program.
She did do that for a short time.
Yeah, she did that.
Do any of you have any personal comments about Kristen or any aspect of this program? Okay, thank you for attending. There's some refreshments back there. I'll have these brochures up there. If you're interested in the Slater